Hey there, my name is Timothy Roberts. I'm an independent cymbalsmith, and in this video I want to briefly run down all of the series that I offer and explain a little bit about what makes them sound the way they do and what context and musical environment they might work best in. So I have 5 different series that I offer under my cymbal company. The first series is called the Landmark, then we've got the Labyrinth, then we've got the Tributary, the Duco, and finally the Prism Series. So starting out with the Landmark series, this is my flagship line of cymbals. I made these cymbals partially through inspiration of one of my favorite drummers of all time, Brian Blade. His Fellowship band has an album called Landmarks, and I love that album so much. I love the cymbal sounds on that album. And one of the things that I love so much about Brian's cymbals is that his stick definition always sits out on top, and there's always this nice low bed of warm sound that supports the stick definition, and they feel pretty distinct. They don't feel like they're too mixed together. The different frequencies in his cymbals really feel separated, and so that in essence is the entire aim and goal with the Landmark series cymbals. I have them in medium shapes, medium low sometimes, where that's going to provide for a low fundamental pitch, but the stick definition will sit high above the low fundamental so that things don't feel too mushed together. You'll hear what I mean in a minute when I play these things, but this gives you clarity without sacrificing warmth and nuance. So I've got 3 Landmarks in front of me. I'll play them. You guys let me know what you think. So you can tell all these cymbals have a low fundamental that sits way below that stick definition. And that's going to basically give you a cymbal that's really inviting to play, but it's going to work well on the gig. So that's the Landmark series cymbals. Next up, we have the Labyrinth series. The Labyrinth series is the series of cymbals that I designed with the influence of one of my favorite drummers ever, Bill Stewart. He has a very distinct sound that is a little bit more trashy, a little bit more complex. It's got some funky, growly, angry tones to it. And the way that he achieves this sound is with cymbals that have a bit of a taller shape. So the more umbrella shaped a cymbal is, the more the fundamental pitch is going up and the overall pitch of the cymbal is going up. And then when you have these high curvatures, you get a little bit of a ka, kind of complex, dirty, growly sound. And then there are other ways to pull out that kind of sound with hammering techniques and lathing techniques, which I do. But in essence, the Labyrinth series is a little bit more dirty, a little bit more aggressive, in your face. The pitches are a little bit higher because the profiles are taller. And they're really fun cymbals to play. So I've got 3 of them here. Check them out. Let me know what you think.
Yeah, I really like these cymbals a lot. This one's definitely, one of the main positions, definitely lower than a lot of my Labyrinths, but it's tall enough to just barely squeak it in to be a Labyrinth cymbal. Basically, the only difference between the Labyrinth and the Landmark is the height of the profile. So if this one was just a smidge lower, then it would classify perfectly as a Landmark. But the taller ones, Labyrinth cymbals. And they also don't have really heavy patinas. They're mostly wide open cymbals, so there's not a bunch of gunk on top that's drying up the sustain. This is giving it a little bit more of that sharp, crisp attack, especially that you hear on this 21 here. So that is the Labyrinth series. Next up is one of my favorites, the Tributary, and this one is one that I have worked on probably more than any of the others because the designs were so difficult to land. Basically, this series utilizes an incredibly heavy patina and some overhammering techniques at the end of the process to really contain the sound. And what I'm going for with this series is essentially it's an homage to vintage cymbals. So if you've ever played a cymbal like an old K Zildjian cymbal, some of the Spizzichinos that are older, even some of the older Peistes, and sometimes an older A, although not always for reasons I'll discuss maybe in another video. But basically what I do is I take a cymbal, I shape it kind of in between a Landmark and a Labyrinth. It's sort of, medium shaped, sometimes medium tall. Then I put this Tributary patina on it, and it's a multi-layer patina. It takes days to do, and it really builds up an incredibly thick grime to the cymbal. I'll show you on this guy here. It's very brown and green looking, and that patina gets built up heavily on the surface, and then I wax on top of that to seal it. And the wax also dries the cymbal up. And then at the very end, I come in and do some overhammering and some techniques to harden the outer surface of the bronze. And this last portion of the process is really, to me, what takes it into that realm of being like an old cymbal, having the essence of an older cymbal. Because cymbal alloy, as it ages, it becomes more brittle. And that brittleness yields a tighter and drier stick sound, and also a very particular feel that I'm aiming at with the processes I do on this series. So enough talk. I've got 3 Tributaries in front of me. They're very interesting cymbals. They got some funkiness to them. They're dry. They're smoky. Yeah, they're some of my favorites. So check them out.
I probably played those a little bit longer than I should have, but they're fun. They're really fun. So Tributary Series, that's my homage to old vintage cymbals. Next up, we have the Duco Series, which the Duco is a series that I don't make too many of, mainly because I have too much fun with the other four. But the Duco series essentially utilizes the unlathed crust, which is essentially the oxide layer that forms on the outside of the bronze when it's in the oven. So I usually don't like fully Turk or unlathed cymbals. So what I'll do is usually, like this one has a Turk top or an unlathed top, fully lathed bottom. I usually manipulate the surface in some way. So it's not fully Turk, it's not fully unlathed, because those cymbals just feel a little bit too dry, a little bit too dead for my ear. So the Duco series, I usually do some polishing techniques or partial skip lathing techniques, scratch pass techniques, all different kinds of stuff. But with this series, you're going to get much more dry sounds. But unlike the Tributary, they're a little bit more pointed and crisp and dry at the same time, if that makes sense. So check out these two that I got. As you can tell, they sound vastly different, these two. This one right here is in an umbrella shape. So this is very much like a Labyrinth Series cymbal, but without any of the crust removed. I did a little bit of polishing on it and some burnish work, which is blunt force lathing. But it's definitely got a Labyrinth vibe, but with the crust on it. And this one has a much darker sound, I think. But that's the Duco series. One more series to go, and then I promise I will stop this video. The last series is called the Prism Series. This is my newest series of cymbals, and I love this series of cymbals. These are my flat rides, my half flat rides. I've got flat top hi-hats. Yeah, this is a very, very interesting series of cymbals to my ear. I had never owned a flat ride until I was asked to make one. Very early on, right when I started making cymbals and started offering them, I had a friend of mine ask for me to make him a flat ride. So I made one and was very interested by it when it was finished. And he told me, he was like, the reason I love a flat ride is because it's a in-between of a set of hi-hats and a regular ride. It's like an in-between. It gives you that clarity of a hi-hat, but with a little bit more openness. So I was like, okay, that's kind of an interesting take. But I never loved how they didn't crash very well. Fast forward a few years, multiple years actually, but I met Dave King when he came to Winston-Salem, and he let me borrow his flat ride that he's used on a bunch of gigs and recordings. And that flat ride is paper thin, like super, super, super thin, way thinner than I've ever made a flat ride. And it was unbelievable how well it crashed. And beyond that, it still had stick definition. So I was really pretty amazed by the versatility of it, and it just was a lot of fun to play. So I launched the Prism Series as an homage to that, and also an homage to one of my favorite records, Now He Sings, Now He Sobs, with the great Roy Haynes. That is the record that made the flat ride famous. and that flat ride sounds on it is amazing. It doesn't crash very well, but essentially I'm going for a mixture between Now He Sings, Now He Sobs and the Dave King flat ride, and this is what you have. Beyond that, I've got over here one of my half flat rides, which is essentially just adding in a tiny little bell to a flat ride, so you get a little bit more volume and a little bit more crashability. So here they are. All right, keep that sound in your head. Place the main one with another half flat ride, and this is the half flat Prism. These two half flats have a little bit more trash and growliness than the Prism Series is going to have going forward, because the idea with the Prism Series is kind of glassy, crystalline kind of sounds, almost like when you go into caves and you see the stalagmites and the stalactites. It's angular, it's glassy, it's crystally. These are a little bit dark and growly and kind of angry sounding. But they're still half flats and they're still prisms. So like all of the series that I make, there's all this middle ground, and there's a playground in the middle that I can use, and I can draw in elements from other series to create sounds, which is why I just love cymbal making. It's an unending art form. You can take all different kinds of sounds and combine them into one cymbal, tons of different techniques. It really is a pleasure and super inspiring just to search for sounds. So with my series, there is obviously kind of a banner, a mantra over all of them that gives you an idea for what the vibe is for that kind of series. But within that, there's all kinds of variants even within the same series. So that is a crash course on the 5 series that I offer with my cymbals. You can find more information at reveriedrums.com. I will post batches every now and then of cymbals that I'm making, but you can also go on and commission me to make you a cymbal. There's 3 options to choose from: the series that you want, the size that you want, and then the weight that you want. And you can go ahead and place the order there, and then I'll be in touch and we can dial in more of the specs that you want after that. So I know that was a lot, but please let me know what you think. Which of these series is your favorite? Which one do you connect with most? And what do you think? I'd love to know. Drop a comment below, hit the subscribe and the bell if you want notifications, and keep an eye out for the next video. I'm Timothy Roberts. Thanks so much for watching.